Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, here to Sports Time HQ. I am your host, once again, of course, the only greatest host of this amazing podcast. Joining with me today is my great co-host, Mr. Gary. Gary's back here, and you already know what time it is. Gary, what time is it today?
Draft time, baby. Hey, I thought we had a pretty good first run at it on Wednesday, and I'm excited to run it back.
Of course. I mean, you can't go wrong with a great mock lockathon week, of course. Like we said, like Gary just said, we had our mock this past Wednesday. We got another one today. No guest stars, no Keith again today, but it's going to be another great mock lockathon. Let's first get into some news and notes from around the league. And a news I want to mention is Rams. They had granted quarterback Matthew Stafford's camp permission to talk to teams. Of course, Matthew Stafford, he is 37 years old. He's got $49.7 million in cap in 2025. Now, obviously, about a few years ago, they traded for Matthew Stafford in a blockbuster deal that traded quarterback positions from Jared Goff to Matthew Stafford. If they were able to trade him after June 1st, they would save $27 million. Now, if they cut him after June 1st, they would save $23 million. So they had a great opportunity to cut or trade him and save a lot of money. Now, the issue is, who is the next successor in Los Angeles for the Rams? Right now on the roster is Jimmy Garoppolo and also Stetson Bennett. They're the two that are backups. They also have the number 26 overall pick, and they are projected $44.4 million in cap space. Gary, talk to me about what your thoughts are on the Rams trying to move on from Matthew Stafford, because to me, I think this comes as a shock because you had someone who you traded for bring you to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. And here we are a few years later, and yeah, he's 37 years old, but you're ready to move on from him. Maybe it's because of money, like we see here, but should they move on from him? And if so, where does he possibly go?
Yeah, it'll definitely be something to keep an eye on because he is one of the older and more experienced guys that we have. Kind of like one of the last guys in that, the pocket passers that we grew up with. When he retires, it'll be sad. But as of right now, looks like he's still kicking. He's got maybe another year or two left. I don't know where he's going to go if he goes somewhere else, to be honest with you, because I think the Rams are going to ask for a lot. I think the Rams are asking for a first-round pick, which I
It's
don't
not
think
worth it.
any team is going to want to do that whatsoever. So we'll see. But yeah, you mentioned it. They just went to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, and when they're healthy, they're probably a contending team. It does kind of come as a shock to me, to be completely honest with you. But I wouldn't be surprised if, even if he goes or stays, they take a flyer on one of the quarterbacks in this deep class, maybe in the third round, fourth round or so.
I mean, Sean McVay says he is confident to have Jimmy Garoppolo as kind of the bridge quarterback. To me, I think you just ride with Matthew Stafford. I mean, personally, I still think they have a good team. You just brought them to the playoffs, 10-17? I mean, I
Yeah.
think the team overall is still great, won the division. Yeah, you're planning on moving away from Cooper Kupp, maybe now Matthew Stafford. It looks as if they're trying to kind of not throw their eggs all in one basket and ride or die on these older generation guys and start worrying about the future. Obviously, they already got their Super Bowl that they wanted. I mean, to me, I think Matthew Stafford is a great quarterback. Not an amazing quarterback, but he is definitely a quarterback that deserved to win the Super Bowl. He's won it. If he moves on, I don't really see a team that would really want him, or like, he's not like a quarterback that kind of just sparks a big interest, in my opinion. Like, obviously he's got the Super Bowl championship on his resume, but I don't know. I can't think of a team that might actually want him. Maybe the Giants, if they want to take a chance on a 1-year bridge quarterback, maybe develop the rookie quarterback that you plan on drafting. But other than that, I mean, that's kind of it.
No, I completely agree with you. And that's the big thing here, right? Like, if he was a free agent, then I think there'd be a lot of teams that are trying to go after him for a year or two. But
Mhm.
he's The Rams are trying to see what they can get for him. And like I said, I'm pretty sure they're asking for a first rounder, which
First is too much.
if I were other teams, I would just slam the phone back down. Like I would never ever be in contact with the Rams ever again about Matthew Stafford. Um, yeah, Hall of Famer probably. Has always been a great player, but at this stage, he's just not worth a first rounder. He's way too old.
I think I could if I were a team that needs a quarterback or maybe a bridge quarterback, I wouldn't mind giving a late, very late third round pick and
Yeah,
maybe early fourth. I think that is right now reasonable, in my opinion, for Matthew Stafford. Because again, if he didn't have a quarterback Super Bowl championship under his resume, maybe not. But I think that's kind of the top price, I would say, for someone like Matthew Stafford. But first
no,
is crazy.
I completely agree with you. And if I'm honestly the Rams, I don't think I'd move him because let's be real, the Eagles were, or I'm sorry, the Rams were a couple plays away from potentially winning the Super Bowl. They were the Eagles' toughest
Exactly.
challenge. They were the Eagles, by far the Eagles' toughest challenge. Granted, it was in a snow game. If it's not, who knows? Maybe the Rams even win. But um, through that playoffs, they were the Eagles' toughest challenge. So they definitely could have won the ring, could have won the Super Bowl this year if they just had a few more things go their way into that game.
Obviously, we'll know within probably the next couple of weeks of teams that might be interested in Matthew Stafford. But again, if this team wants to try and save money, they would not be able to trade or cut him until after June 1st, because that's when they'll be able to save the most money in that 27 million in trading him or 23 million in cutting him. Now, moving on to some offensive line news. The Cowboys offensive line, Zach Martin, has retired after 11 seasons. A little short career for the offensive lineman, but I mean, he was a great offensive lineman when healthy. And I think this is a big blow to the Cowboys offense because he played a crucial role in protecting Dak Prescott. And this just means that now the Cowboys are going to have to really look into protecting Dak Prescott, not only, but also upgrading that line, which has struggled this past year.
No, that's a huge blow because when he's healthy, he's probably the best guard in the game, honestly. Uh, he's been so elite his entire career, and I know Cowboys fans are devastated about this. I know the Cowboys team as a whole is devastated about this. This is a huge void to fill, and how are they going to do it? Through the draft, through free agency? Who knows? But we know the Cowboys love to throw money around, so we'll see if that's the route that they go.
Now, I believe, if I'm correct, I think I did draft a lineman. I did. I drafted Josh Simmons
Yes, sir.
from Buckeye, who was a tackle. Again, I mentioned how they needed offensive linemen in the last mock draft. This mock draft could be a little different, but again, we may very much see another offensive lineman go to the Cowboys because it's such a big need for them, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Going on to some salary cap news. The NFL salary cap. Listen to this, Gary. They're projected 277.5 million to 281.5 million per team for the 2025 season. So after this season's over, that's kind of the in between of what the salary cap will be. To put it in perspective, that is a $22.1 million increase, or its largest increase of $26.1 million for the 2025 season, which was the difference from 255.4 million in 2024. This not only has a big increase on the cap, but it also has an increase by $100 million since 2018, which was at that point 177 million. And before you give your take on it, that is a big number, big change in salary cap. But not only that, that allows for teams to spend these record numbers on these players, and that's why you're going to always consistently see records being broken on averages per year made by each position.
Oh, this is an absolutely huge change, especially because, I mean, there are a lot of teams right now in cap space hell, including the Browns, and I'm pretty sure this move puts them like right at the mark. So definitely in favor of that. Um, but yeah, I mean, you're giving so many teams just so much more leverage and room here to breathe. Um, so we could be seeing a lot more, yeah, like you had said, record-breaking deals, but it also could mean more super teams in the near future. So
unless you're a Saints fan, then maybe it might help you clear up your negative cap space. But other than that, I mean, it just might help you get
yeah, it does
above.
the same thing for us. So I'll take it.
It doesn't really need to increase for the Patriots because we're sitting great on our
Yeah,
cap.
that's true.
Got the most in this year's salary cap in the free agency market. Before we go on to some mock drafts, there's two things I want to mention. Some new coaches hires that people may have not realized, and these aren't head coaching hires. These are just personnel about the teams. This was from CBS Sports. Dre Blee, I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He becomes an assistant defensive back. Yeah, I didn't really hear about him either. I think he's an older former coach. Doug Marrone is back in the league. Unfortunately, with the Patriots, he's the offensive line coach.
There you go.
Offensive line coach. Jeff Earlbridge, defensive coordinator for the Falcons. Ben McAdoo. Haven't heard his name in a while.
Wow.
He's the senior defensive assistant for the New England Patriots.
Oh.
Darren Rizzi, never really heard of him too much. He's a special teams coordinator for the Broncos. Matt Eberflus, former Chicago head coach. He's a defensive coordinator for the Cowboys. Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly, he's made his name back into the NFL. He is the OC for the Las Vegas Raiders. Obviously, Tom Brady being the ownership, he's trying to bring back some big name personnel to try and help that team win. David Shaw, passing game coordinator for the Lions. Eric Benamy, a running backs coach for the Chicago Bears.
Wow.
2 years ago, you were the head coach, and now you became running back coach. That's a big demotion, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And lastly, do you remember a random guy, a former head coach for the Indianapolis Colts, Chuck Pagano? He is back.
Yes, I do.
He is back. He is the senior defensive assistant in secondary for the Baltimore Ravens.
I don't even know what that means, but okay.
Yeah, some interesting ones. Definitely big names that people have seen in the past be head coaches that are no longer head coaches now. Captain, joking, I want to say. I mean, it's not spelled joking, but joking. Can you explain to me why I'm not excited at all about territory at McMillan? If Vlad McConkey was on the board with T-Mac, who would you take first? Gary, I'll pin this over to you. You're a big college guy, so I know you have a little bit more information than I do on this, but what is your take on this question here?
So, Captain, I'm going to look at it from two separate perspectives. Now, you say you're not excited at all about T-Mac, and I don't know necessarily if you are going about this as a fan of a certain team that might draft him, or just a fan as a whole, and you don't think he's really that guy of what maybe he's getting the hype for. As a fan, maybe of a team that's in a stance to draft him, I mean, he's a great big body receiver. I don't know exactly how tall he is, but the reason why I say he might fall to the Buccaneers at 19 is because he reminds me so much of Mike Evans. And I think Mike Evans is so spectacular, but he can't be around forever. And I just get, those visions so much from him. He's been a blowout, or he's been a guy who's just exploded onto the season back-to-back years at Arizona, who doesn't really always have the best talent. They have Noah Fafita at quarterback. He's pretty good. But besides that, they're not really that good. I'm very excited about T-Mac. I've been on him over Luther Burden ever since 2 seasons ago. So I really like him. And if he was in the same draft class as Vlad McConkey, T-Mac's definitely off the board first. McConkey fell because he had an ankle injury, and I think he actually had multiple ankle injuries at Georgia. And teams were definitely not that excited over his injury history, but he showed flashes at Georgia, so there's definitely some potential and upside there. Fernando, you could say your thoughts here. I don't know. I love Tyrell McMillan. I think he's going to be a stud.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned how in the past shows how this draft class is so much deeper than we've seen in previous years. And I agree with you, Gary. I think T Mac to Term McMillan, he is a guy that I'd personally choose over Lad McConkey. You were mentioning how tall he is. He's 6'5". He is obviously the number one wide receiver prospect in this year's draft. His 40 time is 4.5. Not the greatest 40 time for a receiver, but again, like you mentioned, a big body guy. He is a guy that can definitely be a great guy that can receive and get the ball and make some plays. Again, you might not be too excited. Personally, I'm an Amika guy. I'm still an Amika guy. Ibuka, been on him since he came into Ohio as a Buckeye, and you might also be a little biased because you're a Buckeye fan. But I think personally, Amika Ibuka should probably be one of the first wide receivers off the board. Now, obviously, he's projected number 3 off the board for wide receivers. But again, I think if you compare these first 3 wide receivers off the board, I'd probably pick Lad McConkey. I'd probably pick them 3 over Lad McConkey.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, it's tough to say now because, like, obviously McConkey exploded onto the scene. So it's like if Lad McConkey now was in this draft class, it may be a different look at it. Obviously, we haven't seen T
Yeah.
Mac in the league. But going into last season, T Mac definitely has a better prospect build
Yeah.
up right now. And you mentioned the 40 time. That doesn't really jump out to
No,
me, obviously, but that doesn't bother me either because Devontae Adams for 4.56 40 time. Mike Evans 4.54 40 time. I'm pretty sure CD was in the 4.5. So you have a bunch of guys that are really great receivers. They don't always have the fastest 40 time.
exactly. And we saw that, I believe, with DK Metcalf, no?
Yes.
Or yeah. So it's, again, another thing. You don't have to be the fastest guy. We've seen a fast guy in John Ross who didn't turn out to be anything. We
Yeah.
saw Marvin Harrison, who was supposed to be one of the best wide receivers last year's class, and he really didn't turn out to be anything. I'll talk sports. Mr. Cam in the chat, May and T-Mac going to feed families for 15 plus. Personally, I wouldn't mind T-Mac on the team, but again, I just hope that whoever we get turns out to be a guy that can really produce because we suck at drafting wide receivers. So if we draft T-Mac, personally, in my opinion, I'm like, all right, T-Mac's going to be drafted. He must be a bust wide receiver. So, but yeah, in my opinion, and this is, again, what Cam's saying here, trade back. I personally think the Patriots should trade back and get Amika Ibuka in the middle of the draft. Get the draft capital, put May with Ibuka, and just to mention, Ibuka is 40 times 4.3. It's not bad. 6'1", so a little shorter for a wide receiver, but again, he could be a very good slot guy, in my opinion, or even a deep threat to blow the coverage from the defensive players.
Listen, he's the all-time receiving leader in yards and receptions at Ohio State. That's saying something.
It is 100%. Let's go into a little thing. Cam, I know, is in here listening, so he knows and about the Makeshift podcast, and they always ask questions to the other guy. So, Gary, I'm going to ask you a question. There's 10 teams, so you got a good chance of getting some teams. The only teams last season with a 1,000-yard rusher and a 1,000-yard receiver. Can you list me any of the 10?
Any of them? Okay, so
well, we're gonna go down the list, but we're gonna hope that you can name all 10. But
okay, Lions.
Yep.
I'm just gonna throw the Ravens out there. Did Zay go over 1,000?
He did. If I'm correct, the Ravens, Zay Flowers had 1,059 yards.
Okay, so we just eclipsed it. Eagles obviously are there.
Yep.
I'm gonna say the Jets. No? Okay. Who else would be here? Oh, the Buccaneers should be here.
Buccaneers are in there. You got 2 AFC teams left, and the rest are NFC.
2 AFC teams. Okay.
One might shock you.
Are the Chargers here?
No, they are not.
Okay, so Lad did not go over 1,000. That's right. I think he was hurt for a little bit.
Well, we could have also seen JK or Gus the Bus also not go over.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, like, a lot of teams had guys that ended up getting hurt. So it's like, did the Commanders go over?
They did not actually.
right? Like B-Rob was
The
hurt for a little bit
I'll tell you, the two AFC teams left are in one division.
in one division. Oh, um, Bengals.
No, no.
What? Chase Brown did not go 1,000.
Come on. I'll tell you.
He went
I'll
off
give you a
towards the
little
end.
hint. I'll give you a little hint. This running back is a guy that you've loved so much,
Me.
and he used to be on the Bengals.
Oh, right. The Texans.
Yep.
And that other team is in that division as well.
Yep. It's an interesting set.
Really?
Joe Mixon
Colts?
had 1,016
Colts?
yards. Nico had 1,006 yards. No, it's not the Colts.
There's no way it's the Jags.
It is not the Jaguars.
So it's the Titans.
The Titans.
What?
Calvin Ridley had 1,017
Wow.
yards, and
I didn't
Tony
think
Pollard
Ridley.
had 1,079.
I didn't think Ridley would
All
go
right.
over 1,000.
I know. I didn't think so either. You got the NFC teams now. There's four teams left. You've already mentioned the Lions and the Eagles and the Bucks.
Falcons should be here.
Falcons are indeed.
Okay. So I need 3 more teams.
And all 3 of them are in different divisions from each other.
Okay. Seahawks.
No, actually.
A9 didn't go over 1,000, I'm going to assume. Oh, and we lost Freddie. Awesome. So now I don't even know which teams I'm saying are right or not.
That was very funny.
There you go.
What were you saying?
So I said the Seahawks. I'm just surprised that Kenneth Walker didn't go over 1,000. I don't want to say the Niners because CMC was hurt, and I mean Jordan Mason definitely didn't go over 1,000.
It is not the Niners.
Oh,
said
the
the
Rams
Lions?
obviously are here.
No, they are not actually.
What?
Yeah,
Kyron
it's
didn't go
wild.
over?
No, I don't know if Kyron did. Yeah, I don't think Kyron did. He must have been very close.
That's incredible to me. Okay, well then the
I'll give you
Cardinals
a
shouldn't
hint.
be here either.
Are you sure about that?
Cardinals, who went over 1,000 for them in the receiving room?
Trey McBride had 1,146 yards. James Conner
Oh,
had 1,093.
Tight ends are also included in this?
Oh, it's a receiver, no?
Okay. So I keep seeing Cam scream the Bucks at me as if I didn't already guess them.
Yeah, well,
So
Cam started listening a little late.
Okay.
To give you a hint, he was saying Trey McBride. It was, if I can get the stat on the Buccaneers. Keep guessing though.
Man. All right, so I just have 2 NFC teams left.
Yep, Bucky Irving had 1,122 yards, and
Oh.
Mike Evans had 1,004.
All right, so the Vikings should be here.
The Vikings are indeed here. You have one more team left.
And does Swift go over? I'm going to say the Bears.
It is not the Bears.
No?
Not in that division.
I'm going to say it's not in that division either.
Yeah.
Okay. Jesus Christ. This is bad.
It is in the it is a team that I don't think you would expect to have the running back go over 1,000, but the receiver you would expect to
Cowboys?
go over 1,000. It is. CeeDee Lamb had 1,194, and
I was
Rico
thinking about
Dowdle
that.
had 1,079.
I didn't think Dowdle went over 1,000, but I did think of him.
Yeah, I was shocked to see some of them in the list. I tell you that.
No, the Browns did not go over. Okay.
I think so. No, Elijah Moore.
Yeah.
Honestly, Jerry Jeudy definitely did. And if Chuba was
healthy, he went for like 1,250.
Yeah, if Chuba was in all season, I think so.
Yeah, probably.
All talk says Gene T and CeeDee Lamb. That'd be
maybe.
Wild.
We'll see today.
Wild. Yeah, we'll see what happens with the draft, of course. This is a mock-a-lock-a-thon week. So we got ourselves another week of mock drafts. And again, there is no trades in this one, unfortunately, Gary. I did see, if you see on the screen now, that there is offers you can do. But again, I don't have the premium version. So if anyone that wants to donate money to get the premium version, by all means. But this is now the premium version. Now, last week, Gary did the AFC. I did the NFC. This week is a little different. We're going to go pick by pick because obviously some of us had 7 picks in a row, 5 picks in a row. I will be doing the even teams. You will be doing the odd teams today, Gary.
Okay.
So, of course, you are on the clock once again with the Titans.
All right. You know what, guys? I think the last one, um, we kind of try to get a little bit too strategic. I might honestly just try to change things up a little bit today. What do we think? What do you
Ooh,
think about that?
listen, let's get wild with this draft.
And that means Travis Hunter goes first.
Really?
That he does.
Wow. That is not what I was expecting. That is
What I
not what
was
I was
expecting.
expecting at all. The Browns are on the clock. Gary, you got a couple options that you can go here. Again, like you said, we're going to get wild with this draft. The Browns, they're going to trade a key asset to their defense, and they're going to get a haul. And
Mm,
their next successor on the line is the one and only Abdul Carter. That should be drafted number 1 overall.
absolutely love it.
You are back on the clock. Does the Giants take a quarterback that they desperately need, or do they try and build with the bridge quarterback and get a tackle or offensive line, or just try and help the defense?
No, Giants 100% are taking a quarterback. They're taking Shadur Sanders here.
All Talk Sports saying Gene T going to the Giants.
That's what
Who'd you
makes
say?
sense. I said Shadur. Wrist up.
Shador. All right, Shador Sanders. The Patriots are on the clock here. You know, personally, I wouldn't actually mind Gene T to be a part of the Patriots, but again, number 4 is way too much in my opinion. I think actually they're not going to take a wide receiver here.
Mm.
We're gonna take. We might do a little reach here.
Cam just said something crazy. I don't know if it's rage bait. I think it is though.
Well, let's see. Let's see if it
Yes, it
doesn't
is
look.
complete rage bait. Okay.
For anyone who is wondering in the chat, All Talk Sports saying Saints just traded for Stafford. Honestly, it wouldn't be a bad thing for the Saints, but the problem is they can't afford Matthew Stafford. That's the
Yeah.
issue.
However, I did just see something. For all my Dolphins fans out there, the Dolphins are not expected at all to move from Tyreek Hill. So that's been a thing that's been going around right now. Looks like he's going to stay in Miami.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. Wouldn't be surprised if he stays there. Cam says bad Twitter account. Cam, got to get your sources right. Come on now.
Come
Come on
on,
now.
guy.
Cam, when are you hopping on this show? Let's hear it. I want to hear. I want to get you on this show so we can start talking some Makalakathon trades and everything and drafts. I want to hear your take on some of these. All right, let's get back to the draft. Patriots again. This is the spot that they should be taking a wide receiver if they don't get T. Higgins or a top dog wide receiver. But they're going to protect Drake May. They're going to take the LSU prospect, Will Campbell.
Yeah, that's a great pick there. I think it's got to be him or Hunter if he's there, or Carter, whoever ends up going there. It's got to be one of them. All right, now Jags are back on the clock. Last mock draft, I had him taking Will Johnson. I had him taking Will Johnson over his teammate Mason Graham at Michigan. So I'm gonna flip it
That's
this
good.
time. I'm gonna have him taking Mason Graham at
That's a
5.
good pick. This
Absolute
is the
disruptor. Didn't need it.
this is the one that I accidentally clicked last week or
Yes,
last show.
that's exactly right.
See, I just predicted it, but for the wrong show. That's what I did.
Right, exactly.
Raiders are on the clock here. I think they're going to try and get Sam Darnold, and what better way of getting Sam Darnold than adding weapons to your team? Is T-Mac Territory McMillan the guy, or are they going to go for a quarterback in Johnny Barron? They very much could to help the defense because the defense sucks. I personally think that they will be taking the best available here in T-Mac because I think that's the only opportunity. If T-Mac falls to them, you got to go take him, especially if you have your quarterback. If you do not have your quarterback, then this is a Cam Ward type of pick here. I think they'll have their quarterback in free agency, so T-Mac is my guy here.
Okay. Well, then I think that opens the door for the Jets, who maybe thought they would be going a separate route come their pick at 7. Cam Ward might be headed to MetLife.
Ooh, is that your final decision here?
Cam Ward's headed to MetLife.
Wow. I mean, honestly, if he falls, if he starts to fall like this, we could see a lot of
Well,
teams that are middle of the round start to trade up for him.
yeah, I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, where else would they go? I don't think they're not going to draft Gene T. They're not going to take another wide receiver. Like, they're going to
I,
trade if
yeah,
that's the case, and they don't want trade and they don't want Cam Ward.
yeah, you're 100% right on this. I think this is an opportunity for them if he does end up falling for a guy that could right now be the talks of being the number one overall pick. If he falls to 7, I think you just smash the pick there.
Yeah.
The Panthers are on the clock. They need every type of help on defense. So give me. I'm thinking between. You know what? I'm going to take a Michigan guy. They need some defense help. And Gary, I think I'm going to take Will Johnson here from Michigan.
Okay. I like it. Puts the Saints on the clock, and man, I mean, where are they even go?
I'll talk sports. Asking you about the Jets. Do you think Tyler Warren should be going to the Jets over Ward?
I mean, it might end up that way if they move back, but Freddie hit the nail on the head. I mean, if Cam Ward's at 7, the value is just insane there. And I mean, as of right now, they don't have a quarterback spot. So
Here's my take on this. I think because my projection for what the Jets are going to do in the offseason or free agency is they're going to sign Justin Fields. I think if you're the Jets, you go sign a guy who has a potential to be really good success because I thought he was pretty good for the Chicago Bears. And I think they just gave up on him too quick. You have Garrett Wilson there, so you have offensive talent. I think in Cam's perspective, I think Tyler Warren is a great pick for the Jets at that position.
Okay.
But again, if they don't have a quarterback, then yeah, Cam Ward's the guy.
Okay. All right. I like it. All right. So Saints are on the clock, and I think you had them drafting Warren last time, right?
I did. I very much did.
I don't think I'm gonna do that. I think we're gonna have them draft a guy that we had fall last draft and will probably fall come draft time. But right now, he's the best wide receiver on the board. Luther Burden.
He's the best wide receiver. You sure about
right
that?
now?
All right. Luther Burden goes there. Now, last show, I had Ashton Jeanty going here to the Bears. I don't think they go this route here. I think they're going to take an edge rusher. And I think personally, James Pierce is the top edge rusher coming off the board here over the other defensive line that's already been taken. I think they need some help on defense, and they already have a solid offense. So start building your defense.
Okay. Like that too. Now, the Niners are going to lose a ton of people in free agency, including Mufanga and somebody else in that secondary, I'm pretty sure. So they're going to need a lot of secondary help. And I think you got to grab the guy that just won DB of the year in college, Jahdae Barron.
That's a good pick. Some people might think that this is a little reach, but I think, again, if you need help on defense, and again, Kyle Shanahan's defense is always very top tier. I think you're just going to keep adding on to your defense, and I think this is a great pick here. If Cam's still listening, Cam, you got the Cowboys on the clock here. I think this is, hopefully if he is listening, I think he knows where this pick should be going. I just don't know if he's going to say it in time or if he's still here. But again, they have a lot of different opportunities. This draft pick here, we've known that they've gone to CeeDee Lamb route, the wide receiver route. They could also go a tackle here. I think this is what they had last time. Again, Zach Martin did just get retired. He just retired. So this is, again, another opportunity where we can draft someone like Josh Simmons, Kelvin Banks, or even Armand Membu. But I think if they maybe try and go for building the offensive line in the free agency and then maybe get some offensive line mid-draft, I think that'd be perfect for them. And again, you lost Rico Dowdle, who just eclipsed 1,000-yard rushing. I think you're going to need a big hole. There's a big hole to fill that has an opportunity to fill up a very big need in Ashton Jeanty. He's my pick.
Yeah, probably the way that they would go if they get into this scenario. They love drafting their skill players, so it makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah. You're back on the clock here. What's your route here?
Yeah, I mean the Dolphins also like the Niners, losing a lot of people in free agency. Losing Javon Holland, especially, that's a big one. So that secondary is going to be beaten up, and I think there's not any shame in drafting the best available player. That's Malachi Starks.
Yeah, I can't go. I think that's an amazing pick for the Dolphins. I mean, this is a defense. They have a good wide receiver room. They got a good quarterback if he can stay healthy, of course. The offense looks great. I mean, Jonnu Smith popped off this past season. He had a breakout year. I think defensively, you need a little help there, and I think that's what really allowed you to lose games this past season, and that's why you weren't in the playoffs. So I think this is a great pick for them, getting Starks, who is the best available, like you mentioned. The Colts, they're losing Kyle Granson and Mo Alley Cox. Again, like you mentioned, taking the best available for the Dolphins. I think this is the best available for them in Tyler Warren.
Like it. I would have gone the same route.
Falcons are on the clock here.
Falcons. Okay. So I like Mike Green. Pretty sure he had the second most sacks in the nation last year. But I think the Falcons need a little bit more help in the middle of the field. Their secondary is pretty good. If they can get pressure, then I think the back of their defense is going to be phenomenal. If they make this pick and the guy that I think is the best linebacker edge hybrid in the draft, Micah Williams.
Ooh. Okay. I can see that. I mean, the Georgia guy, he is a guy that's projected to go a little bit mid-round, and I think this kind of is one of the earliest spots we could see him go. And I don't mind it. I don't mind the pick for Amigo Williams.
Listen, hometown guy, right?
Yeah, he is. He is. And that's what some teams like to do because they already know the culture in that state, you could say. And I mean, it's kind of a quick transition for them. Not only that, but say a guy like from Georgia goes up north to like Chicago, Michigan. Sometimes they can't get acclimated to the weather, or Denver, for instance. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's a little harder to acclimate to. Kyler Murray needs some help. And how can he get some help? It's not drafting a wide receiver. It's not drafting a running back because they've both eclipsed 1,000 yards. This is a tackle. This is the best tackle in the draft. This is Josh Simmons, who falls right in their lap.
Hey, I like it because that means him, Paris Johnson Jr., and Marv are all back on the same team again. All Ohio State. Buckeyes at one time.
A lot of Buckeyes.
Bengals on the clock, and I can't believe it says that they're going to need a wide receiver. I mean, maybe.
Well, this is technically because T. Higgins is projected to be free agent.
But still, like, I don't know. I think that defense is quite solely the reason why they couldn't make a Super Bowl run. And I think if anything, you gotta replace a guy that might be leaving come free agency. You have so many guys to pay going forward. Maybe it doesn't work out. I think they're going to draft Mike Green if they're not able to sign back Trey Hendrickson.
That's your pick.
It is.
That's a big snipe right there because I was expecting to take Mike Green with the Seattle Seahawks. I thought this was going to be the best player available for Seattle, who needs desperately some defense. And I think that was a great snipe, in my opinion. Let's see. What are we looking at? We're looking at here. They could take another offensive line. Could take Kelvin Banks. Obviously, he is listed as a tackle, but again, this app, I want to say, kind of just tackle offensive line in a way altogether. I'm trying to think if they do go back-to-back edge rushers in this draft. I think they're going to try and take Walter Nolan, and I think he is a defensive lineman. He can get acclimated to the edge. If not, they can work around that defensive line. But they need some help on defense, and that is the most important position for them to try and get some work in. And I think that's where they're going to have to go in this draft.
Yeah, I like it. That defense was beaten up for the majority of the last year. And, I mean, the offense, when they're clicking, is really good. So I think you kind of have to shape up that either offensive line or defensive line. So
Yeah.
now for the Buccaneers, man, I honestly don't know what direction they're going to go here. Um, I mean, Shamar Stewart, I guess, is a good shout. Um, again, for me, it's just the defense, right? Because
Yeah.
like 2 or 3 years ago, like they were one of the better defenses in the league, but this year, like they were terrible. So I think they're going to go defensive lineman, whether it's Derek Harmon or Shamar Stewart. I mean, I think Derek Harmon's actually going to fall a little bit. So I'm going to go with Shamar Stewart. I think he is a freak athlete, and him and Nick Scorton at Texas A&M were a nasty duo.
Yeah, I think this is a great pick for the Buccaneers because obviously they have a great offense, and their offensive line is also very good. I think really the biggest holes that they have is defense. And like obviously you see on here saying that their needs is really defense. I think if you can build that defense up, this team, depending on how the draft goes and how free agency goes, we could see them again in the playoffs and could be Super Bowl contenders, which I know you would hate to hear because of the fact that Baker was a former Browns quarterback.
Yeah, of course.
We got the Broncos on the clock, and they can go a lot of different ways. I think they might. I don't know. I want to say that they could reach here for some guys, but I think I'm trying to see how we're feeling here. I don't know. I don't think Amika is going to go here. I want to say that I think you know what I'm gonna take the chance. They're going to reach a little bit, and they're going to go with Colston Loveland, who I think is still one of the best tight ends in the draft.
Okay.
If again, I have Juwan Johnson projected to go to the Broncos, but if they don't, they need another pass catcher for Bo Nix, who Bo Nix needs some help because Cortland Sutton can't be the only guy. And I think Loveland is a good guy that you can go draft for the Broncos.
I like it. Okay. So Steelers, the dreaded Steelers are on the clock. And yeah, they're gonna go wide receiver, and I'm just gonna pray it's not Emeka Egbuka. I'm gonna have
no, don't.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
okay.
Yes. They're taking Matthew
Golden.
Golden. Yes.
Okay. I'm fine with that.
Yes.
So the Chargers are on the clock on this one, and I think this falls. I think this is what we had last show.
Yeah.
Of course, Harbaugh, former Michigan guy, he's going to take a Michigan guy, especially a guy that he's coached.
Just makes sense.
Again, yeah, like you said, just makes sense. Kenneth Grant couldn't go to the Chargers.
Yeah, I like it. That's exactly what we had last draft. And I mean, if they're in that spot again, they're not going to pass that up.
Yeah. This is a big pick here for you.
This is a big pick. I mean, who are the best edge defenders left?
You got Nick Scorton.
Nick Scorton. Yeah, this will definitely be a big pick. I'm pretty sure they're going to lose Jair Alexander. I'm pretty sure he's a free agent, right?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so.
So it's possible that they look for a secondary help here. Maybe go with somebody on that O-line. I don't want to go Mecca here because when's the last time the Packers have actually drafted a wide receiver in the first round? So I think
Alexander is not a free agent. He becomes a free agent after the 2026 season.
Wow. I don't know why I thought he was a free agent this year. Okay. Well, then with that being said, I think they'll go with Nick Scorton. Either him or if his teammate Shamar Stewart is here, they'll go with him either. I think we had him going there the last draft. So Nick Scorton is who I think will go right here.
Yeah, that's a good pick. That's a good pick right there. I think this is an interesting one for the Vikings. I think they're going to need some help on the line. And I think you got to take one of the best not one of the best. Yeah, I mean, you could say one of the best in the draft anyways. The tackles have been falling, and we had a lot of tackles go early last show. This show, I think Kelvin Banks is a guy that really stands out. Obviously, they need a guard. He is tackled. But again, they can move around that offensive line. A lot of the players have worked the offensive line in the past in different positions. I think this is a good pick for them. Again, if they are moving on from Sam Darnold, if JJ McCarthy is the guy moving forward, they need to protect him at all costs. And I think Kelvin Banks is a great one.
So I think we were on the same wavelength here with this pick, right?
We very much are.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're doing the right thing. I mean, if they get to this spot, it's a no-brainer. I mean, especially if they're not able to retain Diggs. Um, Stroud came onto the scene early, but there were definitely times where he didn't look comfortable last year. Get him his, reliable guy that he just had this insane connection with the college. I think it just makes so much sense.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. I think just seeing Ibuka with CJ Stroud, not they technically really don't need a receiver in my opinion. Yeah, they lost
Mhm.
Stephon Diggs, but I think Nico and Tank are really the top guys there, and they just need a wide receiver 3. So they don't necessarily need to go for a wide receiver here, but I think if you're a guy that you're the Texans who love CJ Stroud as your future, last year you went to go get Kate Stover, who was a Buckeye who played with CJ Stroud. I think you're going to do the same here if Ibuka is still on the board.
Love it.
The Rams, again, this is where I had Loveland going last show. I think this is the place where Armand Membu is going to go, and he falls a little bit, but I think this is a great pick for them, kind of reiterate the offensive line and help that line.
Yeah, I like that too. I've seen instances where Josh Simmons actually falls pretty far, and the Rams take him here as well. So I think that's for sure the way that they're going to go, especially with how their season ended this year. Ravens
Yeah.
on the clock, man. I mean, I don't want to admit it, but on paper, they need absolutely nothing.
They need something if they didn't go to the Super Bowl and win it.
I generally just think it's execution. I mean, Kyle Hamilton said it, like they, when it comes down to it, they're really just not playing as to what they should be playing. I don't know. I would hate, like absolutely hate to see a guy like Jack Sawyer go here. Um, I think that offense is too good, and I think right now they're going to save the wide receiver position for free agency. Right, we're going off of what we think might happen in free agency. I have D Hop going here, so I don't think they're going to take a wide receiver. I think they try to beef up that defensive back help. Maybe they go with Morrison from Notre Dame, or even his teammate Xavier Watts. Yeah, let's go with Morrison. I mean, I think it just makes sense. Their cornerbacks were absolutely terrible to start the season. They were better towards the end of it, but I think they're gonna want to have better guys there, and I think he overlapped with Kyle Hamilton at Notre Dame. So
this is a great pick because I actually was going to try and get him for the Bills. I think the Bills match him with Tre'Davious White. I think Benjamin Morrison would be a great pick for Buffalo. So unfortunately, he did snipe there. But you mentioned a guy during your little spiel there, hoping that he doesn't go to the Ravens. This is a guy that I think will go to the Lions. Now, this is only if they don't get Myles Garrett, who has been a big candidate to possibly go to Detroit. Aiden Hutchinson really wants him to go. This is Jack Sawyer, the edge rusher. I think he's going to be drafted to the Lions. The Lions had a great defense. They're going to keep on building on the defense. And I think this is a great pick for the Lions.
Yeah, I mean, he just screams Dan Campbell to me. So it makes all the sense in the world. All right. Commanders are on the clock. And in my personal opinion, their cornerbacks, their secondary is the biggest problem here. So I think they're going to go with the kid from East Carolina. What's his name? Siobhan Ravel. I've seen him go really high. I've seen him fall. I'll be honest with you, I don't know much about him, but I think he's the next best guy. And I think the Commanders are going to want to get their secondary improved.
Yeah, I like the pick. Again, their secondary struggled to hold, not only that, but they're also a defensive line struggled to hold Saquon Barkley and the Eagles offense in the conference championship. I think they're going to try and build on that conference championship and try and succeed in the defense because their offense looks great. And I think they're going to try and build on the offense in free agency, build on defense in the draft. So I like it. I think it's a great pick. Here we go with the Bills. You had Snipey with Benjamin Morrison. I think this is a guy that the Bills are gonna try and go for. And this is Tyleik Williams.
Let's go.
Another Buckeye. I think he sneaks into the first round. And I think he's a guy that can definitely help the Buffalo defense. Again, the defense always so great. I think this is a great one for the Bills. And the only thing they need to get over is the damn Chiefs. They can't get over that. Once they get over that, they're Super Bowl champions.
Yeah, you're certainly right about that. And speaking of, they are now on the clock. This is my last pick, and unfortunately, it's not the sexiest pick, but it's the one that makes the most sense. You just saw them get punched in the mouth by that elite Eagles defensive line, and I think they're going to take the best tackle available. Whether you think that's Connolly or Gray Zabel, I don't know, but I'm going to go with what the software thinks. Gray Zabel from North Dakota State is headed to Kansas City.
I like it. Again. Try and protect Patrick Mahomes. Again, now I'm back on the clock to close off this show, and it's a team that doesn't really need much help of anything. Sucks to see Amari and Hampton fall out of the first round because they're not drafting a running back. They don't need one. They got Mr. Saquon Barkley. But they are a team that I believe likes to draft. Is it Alabama guys or Georgia guys? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Georgia.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. I thought it was Georgia guys. I was looking at Campbell because, I don't know, my mind was looking at Campbell. But I think they're going to need a guy that, you could go down the list and they could really just draft anyone because who cares? But this is also a team that probably would trade out of the first round because of the fact that they don't really need much of anything here. And if something doesn't really spark their interest, this is a perfect spot for a team to come in and get the fifth-year option on a player who, again, if teams are looking for a halfback, Marion Hampton here is a huge one. You can get him back into the first to get that fifth-year option. But if there is no trades, I think they're going to go with Jalen Walker here again, Georgia guy. They don't need a linebacker really, but the team just always drafts Georgia guys. And they can always figure something out with him.
Yeah, that's honestly the same thing that I would have gone with, and I think it would have been an injustice if we didn't have Jalen Walker going in the first round. So,
how do we feel here? This is definitely different than last week.
I like it. I mean, we talked about making it a little bit different, right? So,
yeah, I like it a lot. I think it kind of derails from what is always the expectation. Cam Ward going number one, Travis Hunter going, Shedeur Sanders. I mean, I actually thought you were going to make it a little different even more and go Abdul Carter going number one, because if I had the number one, I was going to go with Abdul Carter.
okay.
But I think you can't go wrong with Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter number one.
Hey, maybe we'll leave it up to our next mock draft, huh?
Yeah, next mock draft. Of course, we're going to have to wait a little bit for the next mock draft because we got some shows to cover in the next couple weeks. But again, we are, of course, here every single week. And not only are we here every single week, we are here every single week, 2 times a week. And of course, if you haven't done so already, we're here Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern time. I almost said 12 a.m. my time. Yep. 6 p.m. Eastern time. And of course, on Sundays at 12 p.m. Eastern time. Again, I'm joined by my great co-host, Gary. Go follow him all over social media at GDPicks. Again, Keith wasn't here this week. Go follow him all over social media at SwampDonkey_90. Again, like I mentioned, here every single week. And if you haven't done so already, go use that code SportsTimeHQ on Underdog Fantasy. You're going to match first deposit not only just $100, but to $1,000. Yeah, you heard it right. So again, go use code SportsTimeHQ. Again, they're going to match first deposit up to $1,000. And again, if you haven't done so already, go to TrophySmack.com/SportsTimeHQ. Go get yourself a trophy, ring, or a belt. And And again, I'm Fernando. I'm your host of Sports Time HQ, and we are going to see you all on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. This is all we got for this week's Makalakathon. See you Wednesday.
Happy birthday, Keith.
Happy birthday, Keith, once again. Keith enjoying himself a great birthday and some Guinness, of course. Can't go wrong. The Irish love the Guinness.